riders ready?
Okay, we are off and underway.
Hey, welcome back to A Faster Me. This is the Majestic crit number 3 in the series, out in Ontario. That's my teammate Marlena Bemis in front of me, and then just in front of her wearing the old kit with the blue on the light blue on the back. That's Jack O. So this is the category 4, and it's my second race of the day. Actually, I just decided to publish this one first because I think it was just a little bit better of a race. And Marlena was one of, I think, 4 women that joined the Open Cat 4. They're all Cat 4 women, but kudos to her. She was the only one that was able to stay with the peloton the entire time. So anyway, like usual, I just want to get off to a good start. The pace is always pretty hot right at the beginning, then it settles in. So you see we're kind of single file here. I got a good draft just sitting in the slipstream. And then, also I said this is Cat 4. This is also mixed with juniors and collegiate. I forgot the categories of collegiate, but a bunch of collegiate riders. So if you saw the kit, the gentleman in the green kit that just went up the left side, that's Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I believe. So anyway, they have about 4 riders in the group. And they tried some team tactics and stuff too, so that's pretty cool to see just some people you're not used to racing with, jump in when we have the collegiates down in town. So yeah, it's pretty strung out. It's kind of weird because honestly, this race was it wasn't really that fast of a race. It was pretty slow. I'm just in horrible shape. If you watch my channel, I'm not in the best fitness right now or health. My heart was okay today, stayed pretty stable. I mean, I had a couple skips, but I always have a couple skips, so no big deal. I just really got to work on staying healthy now, being consistent with my training, and then just gain some fitness back. So one thing here you'll see, or you'll notice about me is I like to carry corner speed, so there's always little opportunities for me to grab a wheel or two coming out of a corner. And that's basically what I was trying to do here is just sit in, kind of conserve as much energy as I can or just be efficient. And hopefully I can be around at the end. It's just like I said, though, my fitness is really low. So I'm just going to do what I can and just see how it is and just get back to racing again. So as you can see, we did this first lap up this false front here. Well, it's not really a false front. It's a slight incline. It goes up to about 2.5%. But the first lap, we did it at 28 miles per hour. Now we're coming through at 20. So like I said, it's always hot at the beginning. Then it kind of settles. And then obviously in the middle, you're going to have a bunch of surges. This race also just being in the category it is, Cat 4, and mixed field with juniors, collegiate riders, and Cat 4 riders. It's pretty sketch. You'll see, especially this corner right here. That's turn 3. Actually, that's turn 4. This is a 5-corner crit. So yeah, that's actually turn 4. But you'll see there's a lot of sketchiness in turn 4. People kind of don't know how to take it. A lot of dive bombing in that corner. And then they end up running wide, just causing everyone to check up or do something weird. And later in the race, there's actually a crash in that corner. So sitting in pretty good here, though. Trying to, again, not use too many watts. You can see I'm just coasting, using 130 watts here. I try to pedal through the corners as much as possible. They're not that sharp of a turn. You can carry a lot of speed through. And just pedaling through the corner, even if you're soft pedaling through the corner, it helps you manage your watt spiking. You don't have to spike to as high of a watt or when you accelerate out. It just kind of keeps the legs moving and kind of maintain speed. You're going to accelerate no matter what, but instead of hitting 600 watts coming out of every corner, you can kind of keep it down to 400, sometimes 300 and something. So again, that jersey in front of us, that's a Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, I believe. They have a bunch of, it's good that the collegiates, because let me say this is a busy weekend. You got the Tucson Classic going on. I believe you had a BWR, the Belgian waffle race down in San Diego as well. So the numbers are kind of low this weekend, and thankful or helpful, just glad that the collegiates are in the race because it adds to the numbers. If they weren't down this weekend, our field would be pretty small just because people are out of town racing. Shout out to the Velo Sport rider in front of me too. I don't know his name, but he ended up getting caught up in that crash later in the race. He was okay, just had some scrapes on his knee, but it was a pretty bad crash though. I think a wheel got tangled. One of the major motion riders went down, and then a couple people got collected in that crash. Gentleman right here from Ice Sport, he was a good wheel to follow. I just never raced with him before because obviously I haven't been racing this season, but I would have probably stuck around him a little bit longer just because the draft is great and I'm a little bit taller of a rider. But yeah, since I didn't know him and hadn't raced with him, I just stuck to my plan and kept surfing wheels and just trying to stay up in about the top 12 spots or so. I believe at one point the Cal Poly riders here, I think they had a teammate off the front, and then they're going to go to the front and try to slow it down. Just some normal team tactics when you have someone in a breakaway. You try to get your supporting cast to kind of slow the group down so they can't chase. I think I told another one of the riders, I was like, hey, we got to go around Cal Poly. They're trying to control the pace because their teammates in the break. And it got a little hot for a second just for us trying to run down the break, but we were able to bring it back. This is the corner I was talking about right there that for whatever reason people don't know how to take it and they try to dive bomb up the inside, but yeah, it's just kind of where you're at. Obviously this is still one of the beginning categories. Cat 3 is kind of where you get to people are a little bit more experienced, but at the same time some people cat up to Cat 3 so fast that they're strong riders physically, but sometimes still don't have experience in Cat 3 as well. Super cold. Oh, I should add too, not only is it cold, it's raining also off and on during our race. It doesn't look like it here, but it started raining during our race or just before our race, and then it kind of rained for like the next hour or two. So you see here the pace is starting to settle in a little bit. I really like this course as well. Hopefully we can get some more races here during the year. It's really fast flowing, kind of short crit. It's not anything so special. I know a lot of people don't like four corner crits, but I don't see any problem with them, to be honest with you. I think sometimes we make some of the races too complicated with like U-turns and different stuff, and yeah, that's kind of fun, or it makes it a little difficult, but I don't enjoy that riding as much as something that's a little more connected and a little more flowing. See Lewis up there from LABA over in the left on the black and blue kit up there. I actually coach some of the riders from LABA. It's a U23 team. I coach a number of their riders, and it's been just a pleasure to work with some of the young riders. Obviously, all of them are under 23 years old, and they're very talented. Lewis, I think, does a lot of track as well, but he's still moving his way up through the crit racing ranks. Yeah, well, we also had a lot of preems this race. I didn't get any, didn't go for any, but I just think that it's good we have that type of sponsorship where people are able to race for some prizes and some money. I know they're giving away a spot for the Victorville stage races, which is in a couple weeks. I think the Victorville stage race basically took over for the San Dimas stage races, and it's a 3-day stage race starts off with a time trial, kind of like an uphill time trial. I think it's about 700 feet of climbing in about 5 miles. So after the uphill time trial, you got to kind of road circuit race out in Victorville, and then a crit race in Victorville to cap it off. I think this may be when the breakaway goes off the left side there, and I don't know if they started it yet, but I think Cal Poly is going to move up to the front and then try to control the pace. They may have a couple guys up there already. As you can see, my heart rate's at 175, which is kind of high, but not too much. You know, my threshold heart rate's about 170-ish, 172. So if I'm at 176, I still got a good 12 beats in hand. So it's not that big of a deal, but it does mean I'm putting in a little bit of effort. Even though my watts aren't that high this race, like I said from the beginning, I'm just super out of shape. So, you know, it's going to take a little bit of time for me to, you know, not have cardiac drift and things like that. As the race goes on, you know, my heart rate just keeps drifting and makes it a little hard for me to recover sometime. Still doing all right though, just still surfing wheels. That's one of the things I really like, and I think that a lot of people need to learn about crit racing, or really any type of group racing and group rides. It's kind of like reading traffic on the freeway. Is you got to be able to read the race. You got to be able to see where the flow's coming from. You got to be able to know who to follow and where to move up, stuff like that, and who's getting not dropped, but who's falling back. You don't want to spend too much time behind riders that are falling back. And obviously you want to use other people's energy to move up. As you can see, under 200 watts, and I move up maybe about 3 spots there and back up to about, I don't know, 8th place now. You can see we're ramping up the pace a little bit again here. This is that false flat again, and we're up to 26. 26 isn't like blazing or anything, but you know, it's a lot more than the 22 miles per hour that we did it on lap 2. Yeah, I think I just got to shout out Cal Poly again. They brought out a lot of riders, some of the female riders as well, and it appears that they have a decent program and a pretty strong team up there. I love taking the inside here. I think it's just a better line, and as you can see, I made up a little time on the Cal Poly rider there without even doing much watch, just taking a different line, a little bit more flowing line that I can carry more speed on. This front straight here too was a pretty stiff headwind. You know, if you're on the front, you got to put in a decent amount of watts and effort to keep the speed high. Sitting in the draft though, it, you know, obviously makes it a lot easier, and it's kind of magnified the effectiveness when it's a headwind there. Shout out to Go Fast also in front of us. I can't remember who was in the race, but he was doing some pretty good work at the beginning, I believe it is. Maybe it's middle of the race, but the lines and the people around him at the time was just so sketchy. There was a lot of weaving and kind of near collisions, and I think at some point he was just like, yeah, you know, I'm done with this. I'm not going to be putting in effort while people are kind of wild around me, almost taking me out. So yeah, for some reason this is definitely I don't know if it was the wet, and I know it doesn't look that wet right now. You know why it doesn't look that wet? Because I'm confusing myself with my earlier race. It didn't rain this race, so yeah, I take that back. It rained in the earlier race. Earlier in the day, I did the 3-4 race as well at about 10 o'clock, and it rained during that race for, you know, and then from that point on for a couple hours. This race is actually later in the day at 1:45, and yeah, the surface was pretty dry by now. There's a bunch of random lines there. You see we're like 5 wide. Yeah, that's pretty, you know, that's Cat 4 for you. It's pretty wide, I mean random, and I think people just need to just do a little research, just do a little studying about, you know, taking proper lines, hitting apexes, what approach to take on, any type of racing. It's the same with like motorcycle racing, car racing, stuff like that. Other than they have an engine, so it's even more important for us to take proper lines and carry speed because we can't just step on the gas and get a boost. We have to use our heart rate and our muscles, things like that. So it doesn't take much to just study a little bit and find out the proper lines, and then of course practice them. You and normally in crit races, I prefer taking the inside line. However, in this race, just because it's so, some of the riders were very unpredictable, so I decided to go to the outside. Not because it's safer though; it's not really safer on the outside. In my opinion, it's safer taking the inside line. However, because of the congestion and some of the lack of judgment with people dive bombing, I decided to take the outside just because the roads are so wide and our field is pretty small. I think we only have about 40 riders today, and normally we have 75. If we have 75 riders, I'm almost always going to stick to the inside. But when it's a smaller field like that, like this, it gives me the option to go either inside or outside, depending on where I think I should be at the time. This is one of those races where, yeah, I would kill to have fitness because, yeah, this is a course that suits me. It's at a speed that suits me. Um, if I had any type of fitness, I'd be a lot better today just because I'm pretty sure I'd have a decent sprint at the end just because our pace was down. Like I said before, I think last year most of our Cat 4 races we averaged just about 27 or a little over 27. And this race we only averaged 25 miles per hour, maybe 25.8 if I'm not mistaken. So, like a mile per hour and a half slower. It doesn't seem like much, but it is. It's a different race. You take a mile and a half, 2 miles per hour off a 40-minute race, and the race is different. And I don't mean that it's necessarily always easier. Sometimes a 27-mile race. So there, if you say the Cal Poly guy takes both hands off and throws his hands up and looks like he's kind of messing around. I don't know why he did that, but it's really not recommended. It's really an unsafe move. I know maybe he's thinking he's having fun or whatever, but crashes happen often in bicycle racing. Crashes happen every single weekend. So you never want to do something like that can increase the chance of someone crashing. And again, I'm not like, trying to call him out necessarily or anything. I don't make the news. I just report it. One of those type things. So, I think it was just a lapse in concentration of kind of the seriousness of where he's at. Obviously the pace has picked up a little bit here. We're approaching 30 miles per hour on this front straight into a headwind, and probably a preem lap that someone's going for, or I don't know if we're still trying to bring back the brake at this point. I much prefer it faster like this, even though my heart rate is super high and my heart's about to jump out of my chest. I only got about 3-4 beats left in me before I pop. But I much prefer it fast like this, and just single file and carrying speed through corners, never hitting brakes, stuff like that. I much prefer it like that when I'm in shape. Just, like I said before, I'm just unfortunately not in shape right now. And kudos to the rider in front of me putting in a strong dig. Obviously, I'm doing my work as well, and we're just trying to latch back on to the end here. And that's one thing. Don't stop too early. When you see the group coming to you, keep pedaling before, and don't stop pedaling until you actually get onto the back of that wheel. People do that a lot when they're putting in a hard effort and they want to rest. So right before they catch the wheel, they kind of ease off, and then it surges again, and then they're dropped all over again. So if you see how I just rode by the guy that bridged to the group, because everybody wants to rest once they bridge up, and that's a perfect time to move up without using a lot of watts. Jack almost got his front wheel clipped there and had to make an adjustment mid-turn. Kind of like I said here, you can see the race is not that fast. I'm not using that many watts right here to move up. And really, I just carried speed around the outside. And just now I'm back in about 7th, 8th position again. Maybe 9th. I don't know. Somewhere up about 10th. Our rates dropped back down to about threshold. So that's pretty good to, be at 187 and be able to recover in just a few seconds after getting back in the draft. Yeah, anytime it's slow like it is now, pretty sure there's going to be another attack again. When you're down near 23 miles per hour, someone's going to get a little impatient and launch attack, or just try to take advantage of it and see if they can get a gap. But we're definitely going too slow right now for this to maintain this way. And as you can see, it's bunching up. Once it bunches up, it gets a little bit, more unsafe as well. You don't want to be 4 wide, 5 wide racing. People just, you know, people end up fighting for wheels and stuff like that, and someone almost always cross wheels. So now, as you can see, I haven't done much, but I'm back up to like 5th, 6th position. And it's pretty uneventful, you know what I mean? It's not like I'm doing anything special. It's just the way you read the race and kind of surf the field. Like I said, I just wish I was fit. I'm just not fit right now. I'm not that healthy. I did have a couple. I think I already mentioned it. I did have a couple like AFib blips when I was warming up before this race, but but they're very minor. It was nothing special. It's just that it's very cold, and I've been out here all day, so I think my body is just running low on calories, on hydration. Even though I've eaten, I ate in between races and had something to drink, stuff like that. It's just when your body's trying to generate heat because it's so cold. Because there's a nice breeze out here today. Easy to get like low energy and a little dehydrated. Being that my wife raced at 8 this morning, my first race was at 10, and now it's almost 2:30. Excuse me. So there's Lewis again from LABA. Like I said, technically I'm one of the coaches for LABA. I mainly work with rider fitness, prescribing their workouts, all that kind of stuff, monitoring their fatigue and just their progress, stuff like that. I don't coach Lewis though. I only coach a certain amount of their team, but it's good just to work with their team. And of course, I know about them and I follow all their riders and stuff like that. So I would say Lewis is doing a great job. He's real competitive. He has a lot of talent, and like I said, I think he spends a lot of time on the track, or at least he used to. And he's just working his way up the crit ranks, and hopefully he'll be joining his teammates in Cat 3. The goal of their team is to be like at least Cat 3 and above, and then kind of get some of the newer riders just started, and then obviously move them up when they progress. So yeah, I think my style is to try to stay calm all the time, be as calm as possible, not panic. And for me, being an older person, obviously I'm a little bit more mature being older, and some of the younger riders are so like impatient. And I don't mean impatient as far as like attacking and stuff like that, but everything is like exaggerated a little bit, like if someone comes towards you, they kind of exaggerate and panic a little bit, or they think it's a bigger deal than it is, like someone's trying to take them out. It's not that kind of deal. It's just racing. No one's really out here purposely trying to hurt anyone or anything like that, but just watch people's body language and their movement. Small things happen, and the next thing you know, someone's weaving. And honestly, in the long run, that's why we have so many crashes in the smaller fields. In the lower categories, it's just people overreact a lot. I saw the Cal Poly guy moving up a little late. I mean, I saw him early, but I just decided to react a little late. But again, I jump on his wheel and use his momentum and, just to stay at the pointy end of the peloton. So I'm still sitting kind of pretty. We only have, I would guess we have probably about 7 laps to go now, maybe 6, 7 laps to go. And once it gets late like this, you want to kind of stay up front. You see the attack going off the left side up there. It's just a single rider. So it's, it's a threat, but, it's not that big of a threat sometimes when it's just a single rider, unless they're just really strong. It's hard for them to push the wind, especially on a course like this where this downhill is into a headwind. So the peloton's really going to carry a lot more speed than a single rider on this downhill portion. Here I just trying to slot back in, because if you see all those cones on the right hand side, when you're kind of tucked behind someone, you don't actually see the cones or the barriers first, because you're looking at someone's back. And earlier a rider hit one of the cones and crashed. And yeah, you just gotta in group rides, people count, people call out everything. In races, no one points out anything. And if you see right there, the rider to the left kind of put his hand on that rider's butt that was going backwards. And there's nothing, well, I shouldn't say there's nothing wrong with it. What I'm trying to say is, especially in the lower categories, just try to keep your hands on the bars. And there's another little move right there. Almost took out the guy in white's front wheel. But yeah, keep your hands on the bars. It's not like, where you're just trying to like warn the guy, like, hey, he's coming towards you. But more people crash by taking their hands off the bars than keeping their hands on the bars and even using a verbal command, or just kind of, leaning back into the contact. So here there's a rider behind me and he's yelling, hey, close that gap. I'm already doing a decent amount of watts, so I didn't really want to put in any more. And I knew if I didn't, riders would come around me. And that just gives me an opportunity to use their energy and then jump on the tail of I believe it's the next rider that comes by, and then just carry that momentum all the way through. So yeah, it's a little lazy of me not wanting to go and, put in the work and close it myself. But I've been at the front of the peloton most of the day. So yeah, I didn't want to put in that extra effort. You can see my heart rate's at 186. So I max out at about 188 in sustained efforts and about 197 in sprints. So yeah, I didn't want to use that extra energy, and I knew that somebody else would come by and we'd close it anyway. And if they didn't, that's just a choice we all made, and we get separated from the front. So here we're definitely getting into, I don't know, like 5, 6 laps to go. And once you get, 5 laps, you still have a decent amount of time. But definitely once you get into 2, 3 laps to go, you really just can't go backwards. You gotta, you should be going forward all the time, holding your position or going forward. And I'm not fit at the moment, so for me it's a little hard to hold my position once it gets really hot, just because I just don't have the power right now or the stamina to really put in hard efforts, not race pace efforts. Again, and shout out to my man right here in the blue and white. I followed his wheel a little bit. He gives me a good draft, and he's definitely willing to put in some nice digs. It's a nice line through there, nice momentum. I'm definitely a little bit taxed though, just aerobically. It's not, like I said, it's not that fast of a pace or anything like that, even though we're strung out. But I'm just a little taxed aerobically, and I need to get back down to 180 beats is fine. But once I'm in the high 180s, yeah, I don't have much left. I don't have much room, anymore. So I want to definitely get in the draft and get some recovery. But when it gets to these last few laps, recovery is hard to find. So here I almost get pinched. They kind of close in. It's not a big deal. I carried my momentum in there. But here, Lewis, I don't know if Lewis is watching or not. I would say to him, just like I said earlier, I think sometimes, and Lewis is a junior. I can't remember his age, but Lewis is a junior if I'm not mistaken. And he's kind of indecisive right here, and he's a little wobbly. So I kind of told him, I said, "Hey, Lewis, which wheel you want?" And he goes, "This one right here," and I'm like, "Cool." But yeah, I think sometimes just being a little more calm. You see, he has a lot of energy. And I wish I was young with a lot of energy. But sometimes when you have a lot of energy, you end up being a little bit unpredictable. Lewis is really strong, though. I don't know what position he came in, but I believe he was near the front at the end. So, kudos to him. He's, like I said, he's getting out here learning crit racing a lot. And, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's going to be a pretty strong racer in the near future. So here, if you can see, I've been at the race. I've been at the front of the race the entire time, and now I'm pretty far back. I'm like 18th place or something, 17th, 18th place, and that's definitely too far back now with the pace getting hot. I definitely should not be any further back than 10th place right now with about 4 laps to go. Maybe 4 or 5 laps to go, but I definitely shouldn't be any further back than 10th place. And of course, once the place gets hot and it's strung out like this, it's not as easy to make up spots. There's a kind of unwritten rule that when the pace is fast, just hold your position. Anytime it slows down, take that opportunity to move up a little bit. So Lance comes by right here, which I forgot Lance was in the race. I didn't know if he catted up to Cat 3 already or, he was still Cat 4. Obviously, he's here, so he's still Cat 4, just racing the 3-4s also. But when I saw Lance, I was like, okay, cool. We got 4 laps to go. I'm going to just sit on his wheel. Lance is really crafty and has a good sprint. But then he moved over there, and this guy was next to me, and number 469 was next to me, so I wasn't able to slide over. And that's just the brakes. That's just how it goes. So I went back to the rider right here in the blue and white and decided to sit here for a second. So, at this point, my teammate, Marlena, she's the only woman left in the race. And I wasn't sure she was still in the race, I knew she wasn't lapped or anything because I would have seen her when we went by. But I wasn't sure if she was completely attached to the peloton or if she had fallen off the back because I only saw her during the first lap of the race. And it's good, she told me she was thinking about getting into the race, and I was like, oh, cool, like, yeah, jump in, just follow my wheel. At least I'm someone you're comfortable with and that you ride with all the time, so you wouldn't have to worry about, like, oh, can I trust him or not? But, I wasn't racing with the thought of her being on my wheel or anything like that. I was just racing like I normally would, and I was hoping that she was able to follow. But after a couple laps, or maybe even the first lap, she said she wasn't really trying to follow. She just kind of was feeling it out and just did her own thing, which is great. We always talk a lot about tactics and all those kind of things and what to look for. So I 100% have confidence in her being able to figure out the race by herself. I know physically she's more than strong enough to be in this race. In fact, she's stronger than most of the men in this race, myself included. And but at the end of the race, maybe I don't know where, somewhere around now, I noticed that she's in the race. And for whatever reason, I kind of turned my attention to her a little bit. I shouldn't have, and it's nothing to do with her, but I kind of turned my attention to her a little bit, start talking to her, stuff like that. And her and I both almost get taken out by this crash, which is coming up. And, after that, I kind of lost a little bit of concentration. And, that was going into like the last lap. And that was pretty much the downfall of my race. Not to mention from about, I don't know, the last 5-6 laps, my hands have went completely numb just because I haven't been riding. And when I race 40 minutes or less, I stay in my drops the entire race. I try to stay in the drops the entire race. I don't get up on the hoods, relax. These Cat 4, Cat 4-5, even the 3-4, they're not the best bike handling, best cornering, best line riding, and I do not want to be caught on the hoods with less control in one of these races if I get bumped or anything else. So I stay in the drops the entire time. And because I'm not fit right now, both my hands were completely numb, and I basically lost my ability to brake and shift correctly. You'll see it on the last lap. Um, you'll see it on the last lap. You'll see my watts and gears when I need to accelerate. I try to shift and can't. It's not that I can't. I did shift, but I downshifted instead of upshifting. I downshifted twice, thinking I was trying to upshift. My cadence spins up to like 130, and I'm not going anywhere. And I literally could not feel my hands. So here I'm definitely way too far back. My heart rate's not that high, so I still have energy. I still have, some beats to work with, but I'm just definitely too far back, so I take the opportunity to move up here without using any watts. But I'm to the inside, so I did not want to dive bomb, so I had to back off a little bit just to give room for the corner there. Try to follow the stage 2 rider here for a second. He did a pretty good acceleration, but yeah, I was still able to use a little bit of his momentum and just move up. So I think we're going to have maybe 2 laps to go now. We're going to be heading into 2 laps to go. Definitely not in good position. I need to move up a little. Actually, I need to move up a lot, a good, 12 spots or so with 2 laps to go, and should be maybe in the top 8 going into the last lap. It's not a long lap. So here, I was thinking Jack's going to go up the inside. That's my teammate Jack in front of me, even though he's in last year's kit. I'm wearing our new kit. So I thought Jack was going to go up the inside here, but there's really just not a lot of room. Because the first turn is coming up pretty quick, and since they're 5 wide here, yeah, that would definitely be a dive bomb if we tried to shoot up the inside there. So as you can see, Jack is, thinking the same thing that I'm thinking is, hey, we got to get up the inside. When I was talking about younger people earlier, you see like, yeah, there's just not a lot of room in there for us, and if you go in too tight, you got to slow down, and you got to use too much power coming out of the corner. So I just didn't want to dive in there too much, but still trying to find a way to move up, without being in the wind too much and save your energy for the last 2 laps here. And this is the front of the peloton, but as you see, our speed is just way too slow. Going 23 miles per hour, when earlier in the race, I think our top speed up that little uphill was 28 miles per hour. And now we're down 23, 24 miles per hour, and that's why we're 5 wide here. It's way too wide, it's way too slow. And this is where, if you have teammates, someone has to sacrifice himself. They have to be up front, keeping the pace hot, and give, like your sprinter the best chance, because right now it's definitely going to be a bunch sprint. And there you see the crash. Yeah, I just missed it. I had just noticed Marlena was there, so I looked back to see if they took her out, because I noticed she was there. I looked back and I told her, hey, it's about to get fast, and then those guys crashed right in front of us, almost taking us out, and I just knew they took her out because she was to my right. But luckily she was able to go around the crash to the right. I went left, and then we both latched back onto the peloton. I'm trying to get back up to Jack, who's to my right here. I tell them that there's a crash just in case somebody's hurt, because I'd hate for us to be racing through there and there's bodies on the ground. But the cameraman's kind of there. I have to move back over, and I don't have time to get up the inside for this turn. Like I said, too, my hands are literally numb. And I'm not joking like, oh, they just are a little sore. No, they're completely numb to where I can't feel them at all. And you'll see here after we turn left on turn 2, when the group accelerates, I try to accelerate, and Lewis almost hit the curve there. Those are some of the things I'm talking about. Like Lewis, he's just competing right now, but sometimes we got to be calm. But see here, when I try to accelerate, I'm up to 128 cadence for a second, because I end up shifting down twice instead of up. That little spin up kind of blew my heart up a little bit. As you see, my heart's rising now. So I'm back in gear like normal. I'm back to normal gear. But yeah, like I said, my hands are super numb, and now I just blew myself up with that little 128 or 130 cadence spin up by shifting down 2 gears instead of shifting up. And that's Marlena to my right there. My pride was saying, hey, I can't let her beat me. So I shoot back up the inside here. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, why does it matter? Not to mention I'm at 190 beats for a second, and I just shut it back down. I was going to sprint, but we're sprinting for, I don't know, 25th place. So I just shut it back down. I tell her I'm done. And this is her first Cat 4 race. So she, of course, sprints, and she ended up catching like 2 more people. So great job, Marlena. And she won the women's Cat 4 race earlier in the day. Anyway, that's about it. Thanks for watching. We got 2 more videos coming up. The Open 3-4, Cat 3-4 race, and then my wife's race in the women's Cat 4 race. So see you next time.